Hey there, future billionaires, it's me here from Minute Earth. Okay, so humanity has a bit of a problem. The planet we call home is hurtling toward a fiery death, and unless we figure out how to live somewhere else, we won't survive for much longer. Now, you might have heard about all those scientists who think life on Earth could end in the next 600 million years or so when our sun will expand and swallow the planet. But don't worry, because we've got plenty of time to get ourselves sorted before then. And by plenty of time, I mean about 12 billion years, because that's how long astronomers think it will take for the sun to run out of nuclear fuel and die. So if we hurry up and become an intergalactic civilization, we could still be around by then. But the fact is, right now, humans can barely get off the ground, not even figuratively. Though Elon Musk wants you to know that he is working on a literal rocket ship that will make us into an interplanetary species. SpaceX's Starship rockets will be fully reusable, which means they can fly to Mars and back without getting damaged. And while we're at it, we'll be able to stay on Mars with SpaceX's Mars base, which will be built by robots, probably in the next decade or so. But okay, even if we can get ourselves established on Mars, that planet will meet the same fiery end as Earth one day too. So we'll need to pack our bags again and set off in search of a new home. And this is where things start getting tricky, because while science fiction has given us some great ideas for far-flung adventures, none of these places are exactly realistic options for human settlements. Let's take Star Trek's Deep Space Nine, for example. This show was set on a space station orbiting a planet called Bajor, which orbits a neutron star. Bajor orbits so close to its star that gravity actually pulls it into a teardrop shape. Humans could totally live on Bajor provided we didn't mind being irradiated like crazy. A neutron star is a super dense ball of subatomic particles known as a neutron left over after a massive star goes supernova, and since neutron stars are so dense, gravity near their surface is thousands, if not millions times stronger than Earth's gravity. That would be a boon for a space colony, because we could build huge towers and roller coasters and stuff and then go do all the things we love on Earth, except this time, without having to deal with pesky things like air or water. But unfortunately, these incredibly dense stars are also incredibly small. In fact, most neutron stars are just 10 to 20 kilometers across, meaning Bajor isn't really big enough to accommodate a bunch of humans looking for a new home. Or let's try Star Wars instead. Hoth was the frozen planet that the Rebel Alliance made their temporary home on in Empire Strikes Back. The icy world seemed like a great idea at the time, but then the Empire showed up with a fleet of AT walkers and stomped the rebels into oblivion. And while Hoth might seem pretty inhospitable to us, it's actually way more hospitable than many other places we could go in the Star Wars universe. Like we could just head over to Tatooine, which is known for its scorching deserts and twin suns. Or we could escape to Endor, where we could live among the trees and ride around on tapbacks until the Empire comes and blows our minds. Or we could go to Bespin, which is a gas giant, so maybe not quite what we're looking for. The truth is, finding a suitable new home in the Star Wars universe would be pretty difficult. That's because most planets in the Star Wars universe are highly toxic. They've got things like oceans full of acid, or atmospheres full of methane or carbon dioxide or ammonia. On top of that, in order to maintain a stable government and economy, any new human colony would need to be self-sufficient, which means they'd need to bring along everything they'd need to survive for decades or centuries. The only place we'd want to go is a planet with lots of resources like water and fertile soil and a breathable atmosphere and moderate temperatures, and ideally some sort of sustainable energy source. Basically what we need is another Earth, or at least a strong contender. In the real world though, habitable planets aren't easy to come by. That's because Earth is kind of uniquely situated in what astronomers call the Goldilocks Zone around our sun. This is the range of distances from our sun at which liquid water could exist on a planet's surface. The inner edge of this zone is at about 48 million kilometers from the sun. That's where Venus is, and we all know how toasty that place is. And the outer edge of this habitable zone is at about 72 million kilometers from the sun. That's where Mars is, and we all know how chilly that place is. Earth, meanwhile, sits perfectly in the middle at about 150 million kilometers from the sun, making it just right for life as we know it. So if we want to find another Earth, we're going to have to look far beyond the reach of our solar system. The good news is that astronomers have found lots of potentially habitable exoplanets, planets around other stars. And while it would obviously be awesome to find a planet that's an exact duplicate of Earth, we should keep in mind that life could still thrive on planets that are a little different from ours. For example, if a planet is a little bigger than Earth, it could have enough gravity to hold on to an atmosphere and maybe even have oceans and rain and stuff. but it might not be so massive that its surface is completely crushed together and volcanoes are constantly erupting. Or if a planet is a little smaller than Earth, it might not have enough gravity to keep an atmosphere in place. But it could still have lakes and rivers and stuff if it gets regular rainfall. Basically, we just want a planet that isn't too hot or too cold, not too wet or too dry, and not too gassy or too rocky. Not to mention the planet itself could be habitable, but if it has a moon or two, those could help out too. The gravity of the moon or moons would affect the planet's tides and weather patterns, potentially creating all sorts of new possibilities for life. For example, if we ever colonize Kepler-16b, we could use its 2 moons to generate power. Kepler-16b is a planet about twice the size of Earth that orbits a pair of stars, and because it's so close to its stars, its orbit is only 13 days long. Each of its moons completes 3 full orbits around Kepler-16b for every 2 orbits the planet makes around its stars. So, if we set up a base near the moons, we could use the gravitational pull between the moons and the planet to generate electricity. Of course, we'd need to consider more than just the physical conditions on these far-off worlds. If we want to establish a self-sustaining human colony, we'll also need to bring along a lot of genetic diversity. Life on a frontier planet could be tough, and we'll want as many different genes as possible so that future generations can adapt to whatever challenges they face. But fortunately, science says that we'll probably be able to preserve human genetic information for as long as we need to. In fact, if we wanted to, we could actually take a page out of science fiction and put human DNA into a deep freeze. Captain America did it in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In fact, we already do this with real animals. Like in 2017, a zoo in Denmark euthanized all 12 of its numbats, tiny Australian marsupials. Then the zoo took tissue samples from each of them and froze them down. Now this wasn't for evil reasons. It's so that if the numbat ever goes extinct in the wild, zoos will be able to bring it back. But what if we wanted to bring back more than just a single species? What if we brought back all of the species? On Earth, that's the idea behind the ARK project, a plan proposed in the 1990s to save seeds from every plant in the world and store them in a giant seed vault. While the original idea was to safeguard against disasters on Earth, the vault could also theoretically be used to kickstart life on a new planet. All of this is to say that if we act fast, we could probably make it work. We could leave Earth before the sun expands, travel to a suitable distant planet, and start a new civilization. But the thing is, we don't need to do all of this to survive. Earth isn't going anywhere for at least another few billion years. Even if we can't reverse the damage we've done to our planet, we can still survive here and continue doing the things we love, like watching videos about planets and dying stars on YouTube. Thanks for watching this episode, which was brought to you with the help of our patrons. If you'd like to help us make videos about space and stuff, you can go to our support page to learn how you can help.